Hey, thanks so much for checking out Imperfect Parent on YouTube. We have a really cool video today. Amber, tell us who we talked to.
So we're talking to Billy Reeder, who's the campus pastor of our Brentwood campus.
It was a really good conversation about technology and how do you keep your kids safe. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Check it out.
So today, Billy, we really want to talk about preparing and equipping our parents and kids to face the challenges that come along with being a parent. One of which right now that I think many parents deal with is preparing for when our child potentially accesses something online that is not appropriate, such as pornography. And what do you have to say about that, Billy?
Well, I love, Amber, that you said when it's going to happen because, guys, we just know it as much as we can try to protect our kids in this area. The prolific access that people have, our kids have, to all kinds of stuff on the internet that they shouldn't be seeing, whether that's internet pornography, there's bullying that happens, there's predation. We also have like a lot of social games that are damaging to a child's soul are happening in a lot of apps that teenagers use. And so there's a lot of pitfalls, a lot of obstacles. We got to be aware of it. We got to train and equip our kids on how to handle this stuff.
How did it affect your parent? Like, so you have two kids, and as they grew up, and I'm a dad of three. My oldest is just about to step into this world of he's asking for apps to download, and he's. Can I go that way? So what kind of approach did you and Christy take as you were about to step off? What were some things you were thinking about? What were some things that, I don't know.
Good question, Ryan. Our kids are 16 and 18, so a little bit ahead of both of your kids.
Mine just like to look at the pictures on my phone
right?
still.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we just didn't know what we were doing.
Okay.
And so that was the
I'm
first
glad to
thing.
know that you, because I feel that way.
Wait, so you don't have all the right answers?
No, not even close. Although we try to fake it, but it's you can't in this especially. Yeah. So we were a little bit unprepared as to what we were dealing with. And so we had to learn along the way, and we're much better at it now that our kids are, sort of on the tail end of the teenage years as they were when they were entering their teenage years, guys. But here's one of the things we learned is that as parents, we have to be aware of the technology, and that the technology is very complex at times because there's a myriad of different apps and ways in which kids are relating to each other that we just don't understand. And so what we had to do, Christy and I, was make a concerted effort that we were going to just educate ourselves and we were going to get good at technology because we're meeting our kids where they're at. And some parents take the tact of like, well, we're just not going to have technology in this home. And they just immediately eliminate all social media, all electronics, all internet. And I get that. Like, I understand if that's a parent's conviction, of course, go with what you feel is right. But
technology isn't going anywhere.
That was our take. We want to prepare our kids for the real world. And the real world is what it is. And so we need to start now. And so we had to educate ourselves. Certain apps do things that others don't. Snapchat is an app that is kind of dangerous because it erases the history of the communications immediately. And so a lot of kids get into trouble with that. We didn't understand that. And so we were looking at like histories and certain things that weren't there, thinking that everything's fine. And so that's a big step to take.
What would you say to a parent that's, because that, like, I'm sitting here going, I can't even keep up with the couple apps I enjoy. How the heck do we stay on top of the way, like, what would you say to a parent that goes, that sounds great, Billy, but you don't, like, do you know that my kid asked for 5 new apps this week? Like, how do we stay on, how do we encourage ourselves when it seems impossible?
It is. Guys, it's exhausting. I'll just be honest. There's no way to sugarcoat this sucker. It is exhausting, and yet it's worth it. So what we would do is we would set parameters on the apps that they could download on their devices. And so we kept the passwords on the app stores to us, and we wouldn't share it. And so they had to ask us. Every app had to be cleared by mom or dad. And so that way we had control. And so that's a key word here in terms of this in a general sense is parental control. And don't be afraid to exert it. And I know a lot of parents feel guilty, like maybe they should trust their kids. Listen, it's not about trusting your kids. It's about you don't trust that what's outside trying to get into your home and into your kids' heads and hearts.
Parents always say that. As a driver, my parents always told me that. Like, I trust you as a driver, but I just don't trust everyone else on the road.
Same thing. We're now just changing the language of that and applying it to this situation.
Yeah, well, and along the lines of your question, Ryan, is I really feel like that is where being in community with other parents and families that you value their opinion on things. Like parents are constantly dealing with each of their own children's lives. And if you have friends that are also dealing with their children's lives, like you can talk to them like, hey, have you heard about this app? My kid wants to download it. I have no idea what this is.
Yes.
Chances are if you are friends with a few different people, somebody is going to know what that is, and they can speak some truth into what they're thinking. But that's the value of being in Christian community.
We did that,
people
Amber.
that you trust.
We had people that had kids same age, and we were constantly talking, how long are you letting your kids play Xbox? When do they get to play? How much access to their technologies? So we were bouncing our ideas off of each other as fellow Christian parents who had similar values, right?
Right.
So that way
you go about it a little differently, and every kid is different.
Well, as your kids spend time, now it's not like, well, if they let their son spend 4 hours, why can't I? You're in a little more lockstep, and you can't be playing against each other, right?
Yes, it's a group effort. We have to group up against our kids, a unified front. No, it is a little bit of that. Another thing that I think in general is we want to fight fire with fire, meaning let's use technology to actually help our kids shepherd them with how to use the technology that's out there. And that is, in a sense, to answer your question earlier, is what Christy and I did, is that we set parameters on what apps they could use and what apps they couldn't. There's phone controls about when they have access to internet, and you can set all of this. I think you can pay an extra subscription like on Sprint, like your phone. I don't know about the other companies, but that you can shut the access for the internet down, not just in your Wi-Fi, but also the cellular. And so you can monitor how many gigabytes, and you can shut things off. And you really have to do that. Like you actually have to do that if you want to protect your kids and you want to kind of wean them off of just being addicted to their screens.
Right.
You know, along those lines, because that also can sound overwhelming, but a resource I've found is called WikiHow. I don't know if you've ever used WikiHow, but it will tell you how to do anything digital.
Nice.
Like it'll tell you step by step and how to
down.
set parental controls on an iPhone. What's really important though is if you look at the other results, like how to search parental controls, it'll also have an article on how to get around parental controls. So that's where it goes back to like you're kind of fooling yourself. At the very beginning, I think you talked about like there is no foolproof way just to remove the issue.
You cannot porn-proof your life.
Yeah.
You cannot porn-proof your house totally. You can do a good job of creating a safe space in your house, but it's impossible. Even if your kids go to a sleepover at another person's house, or it's just you're in a society, in a world where there's just prolific access, and so you can teach and train, but really the number one thing we have to do is keep pointing our kids to Jesus. To keep helping them shepherd their walk with Christ so that they can stay close to Him, so they have the Holy Spirit inside of them, so when they come across things when you're not around, that the Holy Spirit's active in their life and they can respond accordingly.
And the greatest impact we're going to have on our kids is through what we do and say. So it's so important that you are living a life and doing the things that you're telling your kids you want them to be doing, and that is so important.
Well, and I'd imagine, and Billy, tell me if this is true for you. I know even early already for my kids, so much about what happens next when I catch them or find them doing something, online or not. So much is dictated by my initial response. Like, do I just go off the handle, or do I handle it in a way that is building of their relationship, kind of fighting for their heart, right? Because those first, I know that Garrett is and Jackson, my boys, they're walking towards an age where they're gonna come across something, and I think it's been resonating with me lately. Just when that happens, my response to those first couple times is going to be so key. Have you found that to be true?
Brilliant. Yes, brilliant, Ryan. That's absolutely true. I have found that to be true 100% with our kids. What you want to do is create an environment where they can come to you freely and share what they've seen or what they've come across with no shame, no fear of retribution or punishment.
Doesn't mean no consequences, maybe.
That's true,
Yeah.
Right.
And each situation you have to take it under its own merits and assess it. But what you want is that open dialogue. And if you bring the hammer down and if you fly off the handle and you make this thing like that wet paint sign that everybody wants to touch,
Yeah.
even though it says not to,
Yeah.
that can happen, and so you want to resist that. So having that loving, supportive environment, we really did try to establish that with our kids. And our kids, 16 and 18, they'll tell us when they come across stuff.
That's a huge parent win there.
Huge.
Gosh,
Like
that's, yeah.
thinking, my kids are only 1 and 3, but thinking about the way that I react to things that they do now is eventually going
Has nothing to do with online.
Nothing to
Yeah.
do with any of these big topics.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like, Hudson, did you
Yeah.
eat that bite of cookie? No, Mommy. And you're holding a
Yeah.
cookie with a bite out, like talking through
Yeah.
what it means to lie.
Yeah.
And
he's
what
watching
it means,
how you respond. Yeah.
and what it means to actually come to me with something that you know you've done wrong or you know is wrong. And knowing that as a parent, it is our job that it's not just a one-time thing or when something bad happens, but it's building a relationship with our kids from the early years all the way through, because we want to imagine the end. We want to imagine what it's going to be like when our child is no longer a child, but they're an adult. We want them to function in society, but we want them to represent Jesus.
Yeah.
I love that.
And how do we as parents get to that point? Like, there's no quick fix. It's a long process, but you need people to surround you and support you as parents, because it is hard.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes.
And I wonder if the feeling of the game has changed, but it actually hasn't changed all that much. Like, yes, maybe the stakes are a little higher, online dangers, all that kind of stuff that we want to. But there's an idea that the not reacting, the long game of parenting. Like, there's actually parenting that my parents did of me and their generation is maybe not changed as much as we feel like it has. The stakes might be higher as far as an access might be more prolific. But when it comes down to those core parenting principles, I think those things are still at play. That long game.
I agree. Same principles, just different context, and we just happen to find ourselves in a technologically very complex context.
Yeah.
Right?
But speaking of that,
Yeah.
I'd like to share a couple of tools that the readers have found and used in our home to help
that's
again
great.
create a safe space in our house from all this junk.
Awesome.
And one of the products is called Clean Router. So Clean Router, you can Google that, and what it is, it's a Wi-Fi router that it's a hardwired filter. And so there's two kinds of filtering. There's software filtering and hardware filtering. And typically the hardware filtering works a little bit better. So what this does is it's a Wi-Fi router that if you have a Wi-Fi router already, you can still keep it, but you sort of put it in front of it and you point all your devices to this device. And then you kind of password protect the old one so that you can't do a workaround. I think you know what I'm saying. So what this does is it literally every month you pay for the router and you pay $15 a month.
Okay.
And the engineers update the filters because the bad guys are constantly trying to find workarounds. And this box keeps up with it fairly well. When we first purchased the box and we installed it, before we turned it on for the kids, Christy and I we were together when we did this. I tried for 2 hours to access pornography on my laptop and phone, and I could not get through to it.
It's impressive.
And she was with me,
Right?
and we really were impressed with this particular product. There's a lot of products like this.
Yeah, sure.
This, I think, maybe is one of the better ones.
Okay.
It also, you can set like time constraints on all the devices. You can register all your devices so that you know who's on when. You can unblock certain things if it's too constrictive. You actually can set it to where if somebody tries to access a bad site, it texts you. So mom and dad get texts whenever there's like a danger sign. And so we immediately know. And sometimes it texts us when we're like I'm on irs.gov or something. And I wish it would filter that side.
Sorry, I can't.
But it shows what it
Pay my
is.
taxes.
So
Sorry.
so you can kind of see it. It's really a great product. And what it does is that it just helps when there's weaknesses. It helps when there's curiosities, and it really does do a decent job of creating that
Now,
safe zone.
do your kids know?
They know
how this all works?
None of this is secret.
Yeah.
They're participants of it, and so it's a group effort, and everybody's participating. And it's not just for the kids, guys. It's for the parents.
Yeah.
You talked about a second ago about modeling. If you want your kids to be pure, well, guess what? Moms and dads, you have to be pure as well. And you have to be committed to your own walk with Christ and modeling this and keeping this stuff out of your own head and heart. And that may mean, guys, parents, that you got to get rid of HBO. and Game of Thrones. I know you may like it, but there's a lot of bad stuff that can come in through this stuff. And you know what? Maybe that's an inconvenience, but it's worth it. It's worth it because you're really, again, you're protecting your kids. You're shepherding your kids and your own heart as well.
And it's amazing what your kids pick up on that you do or you say or you hear. Like it's amazing.
That's good.
They're sponges.
Yeah. The other product that we use is an app that we've installed on our phones, all 4 of us. It's called Life 360. And what it is a GPS tracker for each of us. And it's a really good product. Now, there's lots of products like this. This is the one we use. And so the kids know, again, everybody knows it's not a secret. It's not surveillance.
Yeah.
Supervision.
Supervision.
Supervision. Thank
How
you.
important it is to have a relationship with your child.
Yeah.
You're not just watching them.
Yes.
Because let's be real, that's a little creepy.
It is.
If you actually think, and that doesn't build any trust with them.
No,
There's
it doesn't. So what this is like if the kid's Cars works at Rock and Jump, which is right down the road on the other side of Brentwood. So when she leaves at 11 o'clock at night, Rock and Jump to come home, it will text us when she's on her way.
Oh, wow.
And then we can follow her little picture on the GPS map. And then when she gets home, it texts us that she's arrived. And so you can set things like that.
She knows.
She knows.
That that's happening.
That sounds really helpful for my, mom's coming home, clean up the house.
Right?
Like,
you get a warning.
Right, exactly.
I would love it if my husband did that.
Maybe on second thought, it's not such a good idea, right? But my wife loves it because I'm on Vasco back and forth, and she knows it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And so it also texts you an alert, parents, if your kids are speeding.
Really?
They go over the speed limit.
Wow.
You can find out.
Handy.
So note that for future.
So this is like fighting fire with fire. This is where technology can help. I bet my mom, as a single mom, would have loved a GPS tracker on me when I was 16. And so this is a way that we can have some of that. And it's really a helpful product.
The one resource I wanted to throw out there is something called Common Sense Media. I don't know if you've seen that.
Common
And
Sense Media is
it
great.
lets you down, what is this app Jackson's asking for? And it just breaks it down. It tells you everything from a parent's perspective. That they rate it for you. It covers everything.
And
Apps,
it's not,
movies,
it's not just
TV
apps,
shows,
movies, it's great.
everything. Really, really, really cool resource. Let's have all those resources in the notes.
We absolutely will. Another great book that I would recommend is Right Click. And it's an awesome Christian perspective on dealing with parenting and technology and how crazy this world is with that.
Great book. Cool.
Awesome.
Anything else?
I play video games with my kids.
Yes. It's so important.
I love video games anyway because I'm a nerd. You guys know that. But we make a concerted effort to...
You're entering their world when you
join
do that.
them.
Talk about, relationship and that's time spent, time in, right? And that
I may have just played Mario Brothers with my 3-year-old the other day, and he kept saying, "Mommy, I keep dieting." Like, this is called dying.
Amber, I'm so proud of you.
different game.
I'm trying.
That's great.
He loves it.
Cool. Well, Billy, thanks for your time.
Yeah,
thanks for hanging out and your perspective. You're down the road from us, and so I think we would be wise to watch. And I'm sure you weren't perfect. This is called the Imperfect Parent, right?
Oh, no.
And I don't think any of us are claiming that. I know you're not, but it's so wise, I think, to be able to sit and hear just what you've learned and the journey you've been on. So
thanks for having me, Ryan. You guys are awesome. You're going to do great when your kids hit these milestones. all you parents out there, Cornerstone Land, hey, listen, God's got you. It's a work of grace, and it's a journey, and we're here together to help each other.
Wow, that was a great video. Hearing from Billy about how we navigated all of those things and is still navigating those with his kids. And it's a tough topic to try to figure out as a parent. How do we deal with this crazy world around us, protecting our kids,
and it's
not
a topic,
isolating
and
them?
it's a topic that's always moving. It's never set. And so we talked about a few resources in the video. And so just as a reminder, that book Right Click, I think you brought it up.
Oh, it's so good. I'm pretty sure I highlighted every page as I read through it.
Yeah, it's a really, really good read. I would definitely go to Amazon, pick that up. And then
Good perspective.
The website I talked about was Common Sense Media. And we'll put links to all this down below this video, but definitely check out those resources. A few other resources we'll put down there that Billy mentioned as well, like Life 360, that sort of thing. But thanks so much for watching. And if you got a lot out of this video, make sure you click subscribe so that you can get notified for every new video we put out there for our Imperfect Parent YouTube channel. Thanks.